Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Planetarium show. My name is Jessica. I'm the director of the Planetarium, and with me tonight may not be a familiar face if you haven't been around here for as long as we've been streaming, but this is one of our students who works in the Planetarium, and I will let him introduce himself. So, if anyone watched last Halloween when we did our Harry Potter show, he was one of the brains behind that show. And I think we can go ahead and tease that we're going to do it again this year. Yeah. It's a super fun show. And I know you've got some things that you were looking to possibly add to it. Yeah. It looks like your audio is not coming through for some. I can hear you, but it's not coming through my stream. Which, give me one. This happens occasionally, which is annoying. All right, try talking again. Yeah, no, it's not. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Sorry, folks. You know that this will occasionally happen. Let's do. Try again?
Test. Hello.
Okay. I think you're
Now
coming
it's
through
working.
now. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I'll redo the whole thing. I'm Luis. I'm a chemistry student working at the planetarium. This is my second year with the COVID year involved, or this is my third year, I guess now.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is starting my third year, and yeah, I'm doing the Harry Potter show hopefully again with some added magical creatures.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
All right. So it looks like we got audio fixed. Sorry about that, folks. Year and a half streaming, we still have occasional bugs, but we got it all up and running. All right. So on to our show for tonight. So since it is the beginning of the month, we are doing our Constellation show for this month, the month of September. As always, if you have any questions throughout the show, you can leave them down in the comments. I almost said Eli because I'm so used to him being my comment watcher, but Louise is going to be watching the comments for me tonight and will let me know as questions come up. And we'll try to get to them either as they come up or we'll have time at the end for questions as well. All right, so let me get everything situated. And all right. So for our constellation shows, if you haven't seen any of our streamed constellation shows before, first off, welcome. But we use this program called Stellarium, which is like a planetarium on your computer. You give it a date, time, and location, and it shows you what's up in the sky. And the great thing about Stellarium is it's actually free. I have a link to it in the video description if you're interested in checking it out yourself, especially if you are somewhere other than Duluth, Minnesota, since the night sky is going to look a little bit differently depending on where you're located. Although as long as you're in the northern hemisphere, you're going to see mostly the same things that we're going to talk about tonight. So we are currently set for our current time in Duluth, so the sun is just setting over there in the west. And so I'm going to speed up time here and let the sun set. As it sets, you can see this bright point of light starting to show up in the southwest sky. That is the planet Venus, and that's why it's often known as the evening star, because it's really the first star-like point of light that shows up right after the sun sets, although not a star, it's a planet. All right, let's keep fast-forwarding time. Venus is going to set. We're going to go, let's go a little bit further. Let's go to there. That's about 9 o'clock, right? Yeah, 9 o'clock. I always second guess myself on military time sometimes. All right, so this is tonight, 9 o'clock at night. And so we went till the sun was pretty decently set so that we can really start to see things that are up in the sky. We, of course, see lots of stars. Over in the southeast, we're seeing a couple of bright points here that are a little bit brighter than the stars around it. These are 2 more planets. We have the planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn. So those are still visible up throughout the month of September. But let's start looking at some constellations. And we're going to start in the north with some constellations that are up fairly, pretty much all year round, depending on where, again, exactly you're located. Some of these may not be up all the time, but for us here in Duluth, they are. And we're going to start off with this group of 7 stars here. This is probably the most famous set of stars in the northern sky, and this is, of course, the Big Dipper, which is not a constellation. It is an asterism. So this is a smaller group of stars within a larger constellation. In this case, these 7 stars are a part of the Greek constellation of Ursa Major, or the Big Bear. So to see the bear, we have the long bear tail here, back, ear, nose, chest, front legs, belly, and back legs. So our bear is starting to walk along the horizon. She's still kind of jumping down into it right now, not fully walking along. We'll get there as we get into fall and winter. Now, since we have a big bear, we also have a little bear. To find our little bear, we're actually going to use the front 2 stars of the Big Dipper here. These are our pointer stars, because if we connect them in a line and follow them, they point us to this bright star known as Polaris, also known as the North Star. And it's known as the North Star because this is the only star in our sky that doesn't appear to move. And so it stays put. It's always in the direction north. So it was a navigation tool and is the North Star because it always points you in the direction north. This is at the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And so we have the handle and the cup. You will notice the stars of the Little Dipper are much dimmer than the stars in the Big Dipper. So if you've ever had trouble finding the Little Dipper, it is not your fault. You have to have very, very, very dark skies in order to see all of the stars in the Little Dipper. In fact, I have only been able to do that once. And that was when we were up at Chickwalk at the end of our dark sky caravan back in August. Out there in those super, super dark skies, I actually saw all of the stars of Little Dipper. Only time that has happened. So the Little Dipper is also our little bear. So we have bear tail, back legs, body, and front legs. And that is our little bear. Now, our 2 Greek bears are up in the sky because really it's Zeus's fault. Zeus ended up making friends with this woman named Callisto, but his wife Hera got upset at Zeus constantly leaving Mount Olympus and making these friends, and so she decided to punish Zeus by turning his new friend Callisto into a bear. Well, Callisto ended up having a son named Arcus. And after his mom didn't come home, he went out to search for her and ended up coming across this big bear in the woods. And he didn't know that this was his mom. All he saw was Big Bear and got, his weapons out to defend himself. Zeus had snuck back out to kind of see how Callisto was doing and saw what was about to happen. And since he felt bad about Arcus losing his mom to the bear form, he decided to turn Arcus into a bear as well and then put them up in the sky so that they could live together happily ever after, albeit as bears, but at least they'd be together. And in order to get them up there, he picked them up by those bear tails, spun them around, and flung them up into the sky. And that process of being spun and flung is what stretched out these bear tails, giving us our big bear, which is the mama bear Callisto, and our little bear, which is her son Arcus. All right, so let's move over to the northeast, where we have another Greek tale showing up now that we are moving closer to fall. So to find the first of the many constellations that we're going to find in this next Greek tale, we're going to take those pointer stars again. And this time, we are going to follow them past Polaris into the Milky Way, where we find this big W in the sky. This W is the Queen Cassiopeia. And it can be challenging to see a queen from a W shape. But the way we picture her here in the planetarium is that this is her head, and she's kind of looking this way, so we picture that she's sitting in her throne, and we're getting kind of a profile view. So we have her head, her back, upper legs, lower legs, and big long clown feet. So that is our Queen Cassiopeia. Now, our queen is not up here by herself. Her king is up here with her. So if we jump kind of up and a little bit to the left, we can find a square with a triangle on top of it. This is the throne of King Cepheus. And so again, you kind of picture that he's sitting in his throne and he's upside down right now. So this is where his head would be. This would be the armrests, and then his feet would be down here. So we have our queen and our king, Queen Cassiopeia and King Cepheus. Now, these two rulers were horrible people. They only cared about themselves. They were just awful, awful people. And all of the people that they ruled over hated them because they weren't nice. And unfortunately, they had a daughter, the Princess Andromeda. So to find our princess, we're actually going to use the queen here. And the rightmost part of the W is going to point us to the belt of the Princess Andromeda. So here's kind of her body, her head. Her arms are outstretched and her legs are stretching down here. This draws it a little bit differently than we draw it in the planetarium, but this is the Princess Andromeda. All right, so let's get started with our Greek tale of our royal family up here in the northeast sky, and then we'll bring in our last two characters. So, as I said, Queen Cassiopeia and King Cepheus, not nice people. On top of that, they decided to proclaim that Queen Cassiopeia was the most beautiful being in the entire universe, even more beautiful than the gods and goddesses, which is not something you say unless you want a bunch of angry gods at your door, which is exactly what happened. They come, pay him a visit, and go, hey, we heard what you said. Listen, take it back, say you were wrong, and we'll forgive it and just let this go. King and Queen didn't care. They're like, no, we're not taking this back. I'm more beautiful than you. and that just made the gods even angrier. So they decide to punish the king and queen by taking Princess Andromeda, chaining her up to a rock in the middle of the ocean, and setting a giant sea monster after her. And so that's why the way we picture her is with her arms kind of outstretched. That's her like chained to the rock. So the gods do this, and they come back to the king and queen and are like, all right, so you're going to end up sacrificing your daughter if you don't say you were wrong and apologize. Remember, these are not nice people. They didn't care about their daughter. They're like, yep, nope, we're good with that. And so that leaves Princess Andromeda chained up there, just waiting for the sea monster to come and eat her. Thankfully, though, the story doesn't end there because we have our last two characters to introduce. So the next character we're going to introduce sits just below Queen Cassiopeia. It's this group of stars here. And this is Perseus. And so we have his head, his body, legs, and then this arm is kind of outstretched because he is holding Medusa's head. And that is kind of Perseus's claim to fame. He's the guy who killed Medusa. But Perseus is not alone. He has his faithful steed, who is one of our favorite constellations. I'm going to draw it out, and I want to see if you can guess what this is supposed to be. Okay? So we have this star, this one, and this one. Those 4 stars. Any guess as to what that's supposed to be? Did you guess a horse with wings? Yeah, that's Pegasus. And this program does try and draw in a few other lines to maybe make it make sense. But no, this is the great square of Pegasus, who is the flying horse. So, Perseus was on his way home, flying on Pegasus, when he looked down and he saw poor Princess Andromeda chained up to the rock and saw the giant sea monster heading her way. And with some quick thinking, he pulls out Medusa's head and points it at the sea monster. And in case you didn't know, Medusa has this power where if you look her in the eye, you're turned to stone. Well, the sea monster looks Medusa in the eye, turns to stone, sinks down to the bottom of the ocean, and that leaves Perseus absolutely safe to fly down, unchain Andromeda, and they go flying off from Pegasus and live happily ever after, which is great. Fantastic for them. But that leaves our king and queen here still not being punished. And so the gods decide on one last punishment. They take the king and queen, they throw them up into the sky, and they imprison them in the stars forever. And to make this a punishment, they arrange the king and queen so that they will never be able to look at each other ever again. And that's why our queen is looking down this way, and our king is looking out at us. So they'll never be able to kind of feed off of their vanity again and never be able to look at each other. We had a small group in the planetarium a couple weeks ago, and one of the kids has an amazing addition to the story. They've decided that that's also why Cassiopeia has big, long clown feet, because she claimed to be so beautiful that they gave her clown feet, and I love it. And so that is now officially part of the story I tell. All right. So if we head over into the east, yes, up here, pretty high up in the east-southeast is a set of stars and constellations that we've been talking about all summer, and that is our summer triangle of Vega, Altair, and Deneb. These are each in their the brightest star in their own constellations. So Vega here is in Lyra the Harp. Altair is in Aquila the Eagle. And Deneb is in Cygnus the Swan. And so those are our summer triangle stars that are still pretty prominent, and we should still be able to see them through most of fall. Um, and yeah, I did recently remember a new story about these two stars, Vega and Altair, that I don't think we have shared before on a live stream. So I wanted to share that one. This one comes from China, where these two stars are the cowherder and the weaver girl. So the weaver girl is the daughter of a god and goddess, and she ends up falling in love with the cowherder. And for one reason or another, the parents just claim that, that this is not appropriate. You cannot be with him. We're not going to allow this. And so they end up separating the two lovers by this giant raging river so that they're never able to meet up and see each other. But nature was feeling sorry for the two lovers. And on the seventh day of the seventh month, they ended up creating a bridge of birds across the raging river so that the two lovers could see each other. And that made them so happy that they did this every year. On the seventh day of the seventh month, the birds make a bridge across the river to allow the two lovers to meet for one night. And that's actually a celebration that they do have in Japan. And that's like their version of a Valentine's Day. And I just think it's such a sweet story and something other than a Greek story, which are the ones we typically tell and the ones you typically hear. So I always like sharing that one. All right, we're looking over into the south. We have got some more summer constellations that are up. We have Scorpius, the scorpion here. So here is his head. We've got his little pincers coming off. And then this red star here is Antares. That is basically his heart. And then his body, and then his tail kind of scoops down below the horizon. So if I turn off the ground, you're able to kind of see the hook of that tail there. Not that well, though. Why is it not showing up super well? Yeah, let me turn off the atmosphere. There we go. So there we go. We can see the hook of that tail now a lot better. And if anyone has ever watched the movie Moana, which if you haven't, you absolutely should because it's amazing. But if you've watched the movie, you may remember Maui's hook. That is a real constellation that the Polynesians saw, and that is what they saw here. Instead of seeing the tail of a scorpion, this is Maui's hook. So it's a real constellation, and a real constellation that they did use to navigate. So that's pretty cool. And then right next to it is a group of stars that are commonly called, let me turn on Scorpio, there we go. A group of stars that's commonly called the teapot. So we have like the main body of the teapot, and then the handle, the spout, the top, and then the Milky Way is like the steam coming off it. Yeah, this teapot is Sagittarius, which is a centaur. I'm not 100% sure how you get a centaur from a teapot, but there you go. All right. So one last thing I want to point out that I meant to do after we finished our epic tale of Cassiopeia and everyone over here was point out one thing that is very prominent in the fall sky that is such a cool thing to look at. So if you go back to that W of Andromeda here, and again you take that rightmost, or not Andromeda, Cassiopeia, you take that rightmost V, it makes an arrow that doesn't just point to the belt of Andromeda, it actually points to this little fuzzy blob here. That fuzzy blob is the Andromeda Galaxy, which is in fact the only thing that you can see with your naked eye that is outside of our galaxy. The only galaxy that you can see with your naked eye. Anything else, you have to have a telescope for. And it is this little fuzzy blob that you can see up in the nighttime sky, which is just bonkers that you can actually see an entire galaxy without a telescope. Of course, with a telescope, you'll be able to kind of zoom in and see it a little bit better and start to see more of the actual kind of structure. Um, and yeah, all right. I think I'm going to clear off our constellations here, and let's let the night continue to go by. And you can see all of the stars moving except for Polaris here. Just before sunrise, coming up in the east, are our winter constellations, because whether we like it or not, winter is coming. And then we have the sun, and we are back to the daytime. And that brings us to the end of our September constellation show. All right. Did we end up with any questions while we were going?
Doesn't look like it.
All right. Well, if anyone does have questions, now is a great time to leave them down in the comments. We'll give that a couple minutes to see if any questions come through. And in the meantime, I can tell you what's coming up over the next week. So on Wednesday, we're going to do our Learning from Light show, because pretty much everything astronomers have learned about the universe, we have learned by looking at light. Turns out there's a lot of things that we can learn from the light that an object does or doesn't give off. And then next Saturday, we're going to take a tour of the solar system, because it's been a while since we've done one of these. So we'll hop in our virtual spaceship and go visit all of the planets up close. All right. I guess we've also already teased we are starting to work on Halloween stuff, which we're very excited for. Including not just Halloween virtual shows, which we'll be doing again this year, but our Halloween event as well. Don't have too many details to give you yet. We're still in the planning phase, but as soon as we have that, we of course will let everyone know. All right. Well, I think
we're good.
I think we're good. All right. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed hearing some of the star stories for the month of September. As always, we are continuing to stream weekly on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central. So we hope to see you again. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.